The cafeteria smelled like overcooked pizza and teenage angst. But today, something else hung in the air, a scent that didn't belong to me, or so I thought. I'm just Riley Carter, a beta, invisible in the hierarchy of Lincoln High, where alphas rule and omegas swoon. So why were two alphas, the alphas, staring at me like I'd just set their world on fire? I pushed my glasses up my nose, clutching my tray of soggy fries, and tried to shrink into the cracked vinyl seat. The noise of the cafeteria buzzed around me. Laughter, clattering trays, the occasional shout of a jock tossing a roll across the room. But my focus was on the two figures striding toward my table. Ethan Kane, the star quarterback with a jawline that could cut glass, and Julian Voss, the brooding artist whose sketches adorned every hallway. Both alphas. Both terrifying. Both fixated on me. Ethan reached me first, his broad shoulders casting a shadow over my tray. "Riley," he said, voice low and rough, like he was holding back a growl. "We need to talk." Julian slid into the seat across from me, his lean frame relaxed but his green eyes sharp. "Back off, Kane." I saw him first. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. Saw me? I was a beta. Plain, unremarkable, scentless. Betas didn't get noticed, not in a world where alphas and omegas ruled with their pheromones and primal instincts. Yet here they were, two of Lincoln High's most untouchable alphas, staring at me like I was the last slice of pizza in a starving crowd. "What's going on?" I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. My heart pounded, not from fear. Okay, maybe a little fear, but from something else. Something warm and dangerous that curled in my chest. Ethan leaned closer, his dark hair falling into his eyes. "Your scent, Riley. It's different today. Stronger. It's driving me insane." Julian's jaw tightened. "He's right. It's like..." He paused, searching for words, his fingers drumming on the table. "Like rain and cedar. It's you, but it's not just beta anymore." I laughed, a nervous, shaky sound. "You're joking, right? I'm a beta. I don't have a scent." But even as I said it, I felt a prickle of doubt. This morning, I'd woken up feeling off, hot, restless, my skin too tight. I'd chalked it up to a bad night's sleep, but now, Ethan's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. His touch was firm, not painful, but it sent a jolt through me. "You're not just a beta, Riley. Not anymore." The cafeteria seemed to fade, the noise dimming as Julian leaned forward, his voice soft but intense. "You're changing, Riley. And we're not the only ones who've noticed." I yanked my hand back, heart racing. "Changing? That was impossible. Betas didn't change. You were born a beta, you stayed a beta. That's how it worked in this town, in this school, in this rigid, scent-driven world." But the way Ethan and Julian were looking at me, like I was a puzzle they needed to solve, made me question everything. "Meet us after school," Ethan said, standing. It wasn't a request. "The old oak by the football field. We'll figure this out." Julian's eyes lingered on me, softer but no less intense. "Don't run, Riley. You can't hide from this." As they walked away, the cafeteria snapped back into focus. Whispers rippled through the crowd. A group of cheerleaders stared, their eyes narrowing. A few betas at the next table exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of pity and curiosity. I shoved my tray away, appetite gone. What the hell was happening to me? The rest of the day dragged like a bad movie. Every class felt like a countdown to whatever awaited me under that oak tree. I kept my head down, avoiding the stares that followed me through the halls. Lincoln High was small, the kind of place where gossip spread faster than a wildfire. By lunch, I'd overheard at least 3 versions of the cafeteria incident, each more exaggerated than the last. One claimed I'd thrown a punch. Another said Ethan and Julian had nearly fought over me. The truth was weird enough without the embellishments. In biology, I caught myself sniffing the air, trying to detect whatever Ethan and Julian had sensed. Nothing. Just the usual mix of sweat, cheap perfume, and whiteboard markers. But my skin still felt wrong, like it was buzzing with static. I glanced at my reflection in the lab's glass cabinets. Same messy brown hair, same hazel eyes behind smudged glasses. Same old Riley, right? By the time the final bell rang, my nerves were frayed. I considered ditching, heading straight home to the safety of my tiny bedroom and my mom's endless casseroles. But something stopped me. Curiosity, maybe. or the memory of Ethan's grip on my wrist, or Julian's voice, low and earnest. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and headed for the football field. The old oak stood at the edge of the field, its branches sprawling like a giant's arms. Ethan was already there, leaning against the trunk, his Letterman jacket slung over one shoulder. Julian sat cross-legged on the grass, sketching in a worn notebook. They both looked up as I approached, and the air shifted, heavy with that same electric tension from the cafeteria. "Glad you showed," Ethan said, straightening. His confidence was unshakable, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes. Worry, maybe. Julian closed his notebook, his gaze steady. "You feel it, don't you? The change." I shifted uncomfortably. "I don't know what I feel. You guys are freaking me out." Ethan stepped closer, his scent hitting me. Pine and leather, sharp and overwhelming. "You're not a beta anymore, Riley. You're presenting. Late, but it's happening." Presenting. The word hit like a punch. In our world, most people presented as alpha, beta, or omega by 13. I'd been a beta my whole life, safe in my mediocrity. But late presentations weren't unheard of, just rare. And dangerous. An omega presenting late could shift the entire social hierarchy, especially in a town like ours, where alphas like Ethan and Julian held court. "Omega," I whispered, the word tasting foreign. "That's impossible." Julian stood, brushing grass off his jeans. "Not impossible. Just you. Your scent's changing, Riley. It's why we can't stay away." Ethan's jaw clenched. "And why others might come looking." A chill ran through me. "Others?" Julian's eyes darkened. "Alphas are drawn to omegas, Riley. Especially ones like you. New, unmarked. You're a beacon now." I took a step back, my backpack slipping to the ground. "This is crazy. I'm not. I can't be." Ethan grabbed my shoulders, his touch grounding but intense. "You are. And we're not letting anything happen to you." Julian stepped closer, his voice softer. "We'll protect you, Riley. But you need to trust us." Trust them? I barely knew them. Ethan was the golden boy, untouchable and arrogant. Julian was the enigma, all sharp edges and quiet intensity. Yet here they were, promising to shield me from a world I didn't understand anymore. My head spun, but deep down, I felt it. The truth in their words, the pull of something new inside me. "Fine," I said, voice shaky. "What do I do?" Ethan's grip softened, but he didn't let go. "Stay close. Don't go anywhere alone until we figure out how strong your scent's getting." Julian nodded. "And don't tell anyone. Not yet." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the field, I felt the weight of their words settle over me. I wasn't just Riley Carter anymore. I was something else, something that could change everything. The next morning, I woke to a world that felt sharper, louder, rawer. My bedroom, usually a sanctuary of faded band posters and secondhand furniture, seemed to pulse with new energy. I caught my reflection in the mirror, same Riley, but my eyes held a flicker of something unfamiliar, like a storm brewing behind them. School was a minefield. Every step through the crowded halls felt like walking through a spotlight. Heads turned, whispers followed. I kept my hoodie up, hoping to blend in, but Ethan's warning echoed in my head. "Don't go anywhere alone." I wasn't sure if I was more afraid of the other alphas or of what I was becoming. In the cafeteria, I stuck to the edges, avoiding the center where Ethan and his jock friends usually held court. Julian was nowhere in sight, probably holed up in the art room. I grabbed a tray and slid into a corner seat, hoping to disappear. But then I smelled it, something warm and musky, cutting through the usual cafeteria chaos. My head snapped up, and there was Caleb, a senior alpha with a reputation for trouble. His eyes locked on mine, and a slow grin spread across his face. "Riley, right?" he said, sliding into the seat across from me without asking. "You're the talk of the school." I gripped my tray, heart racing. "Just eating lunch, man." His grin widened, predatory. "Oh, you're more than that now. That scent of yours, it's something else." Before I could respond, a shadow fell over the table. Ethan. His presence was like a storm cloud, heavy and undeniable. "Back off, Caleb," he said, voice low but laced with warning. Caleb leaned back, unfazed. "Just making conversation, Kane." No need to get territorial. Ethan's hand landed on my shoulder, firm and possessive. He's not your conversation. The air crackled with tension, and I felt it again. That strange heat under my skin, like my body was responding to Ethan's presence. Caleb's eyes flicked between us, calculating, before he stood. See you around, Riley. As he walked away, Ethan's grip tightened. You okay? I nodded, though my pulse was still racing. What's his deal? He's an alpha who doesn't play nice, Ethan said, sitting beside me. And he's not the only one who's noticed you. I swallowed hard. This is insane. I didn't ask for this. Ethan's expression softened, just for a moment. I know, but it's happening, and we're here to help you through it. I glanced around, half expecting Julian to appear. He's got art club, Ethan said, reading my mind. But he's in this too. We both are. The rest of the day was a blur of classes and sidelong glances. By the time I reached my locker after last period, I was exhausted. I just wanted to go home, crawl into bed, and pretend none of this was happening. But as I grabbed my books, a familiar figure leaned against the locker next to mine. Rough day? Julian asked, his voice soft, but carrying that same intensity from yesterday. I sighed, slamming my locker shut. You could say that. He studied me, his green eyes searching. Your scent's stronger today. It's distracting. I flushed, shoving my hands in my pockets. Sorry. He laughed, a low, warm sound that eased the knot in my chest. Don't be. It's not your fault. Come on, let's get out of here. We walked to the parking lot, where Ethan was waiting by his beat-up pickup truck. The sight of them together, Ethan's raw power, Julian's quiet intensity, made my stomach flip. They were so different, yet they were both here, for me. It was overwhelming, but not entirely unwelcome. Where are we going? I asked as I climbed into the truck. Somewhere safe, Ethan said, starting the engine. My family's cabin. No one will bother us there. The drive was quiet, the only sound the hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of Julian's sketchbook as he drew in the back seat. I stared out the window, watching the small town of Lincoln fade into rolling hills and dense forest. The cabin was a good hour away, tucked deep in the woods. When we arrived, it was exactly what I'd pictured, rustic, secluded, with a porch overlooking a quiet lake. Inside, Ethan lit a fire while Julian set his sketchbook on the table. I sank onto the couch, feeling the weight of the day settle over me. So, I said, breaking the silence. What now? Ethan sat across from me, his elbows on his knees. We need to figure out how strong your presentation is. If you're an Omega, it's only going to get more intense. Julian nodded, flipping open his sketchbook to a drawing of me. Rough, unfinished, but unmistakably me. And we need to keep you safe. Caleb's not the only alpha who'll come sniffing around. I groaned, burying my face in my hands. This is a nightmare. It's not, Ethan said firmly. It's who you are. And we're not letting you face it alone. Julian reached over, his hand brushing mine. The touch was light, but it sent a spark through me. We'll teach you how to handle it, Riley. How to control your scent, how to protect yourself. I looked between them, my heart pounding. They were offering me more than protection. They were offering me a place in their world, a world I'd never thought I'd belong to. But the fear lingered. What if I couldn't handle it? What if this new Riley wasn't someone I recognized? As the fire crackled and the lake reflected the fading light, I made a choice. Okay, I said, voice steady despite the chaos inside. Teach me. The cabin became our refuge over the next few days. After school, Ethan and Julian would drive me there, away from the prying eyes of Lincoln High. Each visit felt like stepping into a different world, one where I wasn't just the quiet beta kid, but someone who mattered, someone who was seen. Ethan was all business, teaching me how to mask my scent with deep breathing and focus. It's about control, he said, standing close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him. You can't stop it, but you can tone it down. Julian took a different approach, more intuitive. He'd sit with me on the porch, sketching while he talked about instincts and balance. Your scent's part of you, Riley, he said one evening, his pencil scratching softly against the paper. Don't fight it. Learn to live with it. Their methods were different, but their goal was the same. To keep me safe while I figured out who I was becoming. And I was changing, There was no denying it now. My senses were sharper, my emotions wilder. I'd catch Ethan's scent across the room, pine and leather, and my pulse would spike. Julian's, softer like cedar and ink, made my chest ache in a way I couldn't explain. But it wasn't just them. The world felt more intense, more alive. Colors were brighter, sounds clearer. And the looks I got at school, some curious, some hostile, made it clear I wasn't invisible anymore. One afternoon, as we sat by the lake, Ethan tossed a pebble into the water. "You're doing better," he said, glancing at me. "Your scent's steadier, less chaotic." I snorted. "Great. So I'm only mostly a walking pheromone bomb." Julian laughed, his head tilted back against the porch railing. "You're getting there. But you need to be ready for the next step." "Which is?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Other alphas," Ethan said, his voice tight. "Your scent's strong enough now that it's not just Caleb who'll notice. And not all of them will be friendly." I shivered, pulling my knees to my chest. "What do they want?" Julian's expression darkened. "What alphas always want. Power. Control. And an omega like you? You're rare, Riley. That makes you a prize." The word prize made my stomach twist. I wasn't a trophy to be won, but the way Caleb had looked at me in the cafeteria said otherwise. And he wasn't the only one. I'd noticed others, alphas I barely knew, lingering too long in the halls, their eyes tracking me. Ethan stood, brushing dirt off his jeans. "That's why we're sticking close. No one's touching you." His protectiveness should have felt suffocating, but it didn't. It felt safe. Julian's hand brushed mine again, a quiet reassurance, and I realized I was starting to rely on them. Not just for protection, but for something deeper. Something I wasn't ready to name. That night, back at home, I couldn't sleep. My mom was working late at the diner, as usual, so the house was quiet. Too quiet. I sat on my bed, staring at the ceiling, when a soft tap came at my window. I froze, heart pounding, until I saw Julian's face through the glass. I opened the window, whispering, "What are you doing here?" He climbed in, all lean grace and quiet intensity. "Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about you." My cheeks burned. "You're gonna get me in trouble." He grinned, sitting on the edge of my bed. "Worth it. You okay?" I hesitated, then sat beside him. "I don't know. This is all a lot." He nodded, his eyes soft in the moonlight. "I get it. When I presented as an alpha, it was like waking up in someone else's skin. But you're not alone in this, Riley." His words hit harder than I expected. I'd always been alone, quiet, invisible Riley, blending into the background. But now, with Ethan and Julian, I felt seen, wanted. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. "Julian," I said, my voice barely audible, "why are you and Ethan doing this?" "Why me?" He looked at me, his gaze steady. "Because you're different. Not just your scent. It's you, your quiet strength, the way you don't back down even when you're scared." I swallowed, my throat tight. Before I could respond, he leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek. For a moment, I thought he might kiss me. My heart raced, torn between wanting him to and fearing what it would mean. But he pulled back, standing abruptly. "Get some sleep," he said, his voice rough. "We've got a long week ahead." He climbed back out the window, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. I lay back, staring at the ceiling, and realized something. I wasn't just changing on the outside. Something inside me was waking up, and it was pulling me toward both Ethan and Julian in ways I couldn't ignore. By the end of the week, I was a walking bundle of nerves. The cabin sessions with Ethan and Julian had helped, but school was a different story. The whispers had turned into outright stares, and I caught more than one alpha sniffing the air as I passed. My scent was stronger now, undeniable, and it was drawing attention I didn't want. Friday's lunch period was the breaking point. I was at my usual corner table, trying to focus on my sandwich, when Caleb and two other alphas approached. They didn't bother with pleasantries. "Riley," Caleb said, leaning over the table, "you're causing quite a stir. Care to explain?" I kept my eyes on my tray, just eating lunch. One of the other alphas, a stocky guy named Derek, laughed. "Oh, you're more than that. Smell like an omega to me." Before I could respond, Ethan was there, shoving Derek back with a hand to his chest. "Walk away, Derek. Now." Caleb smirked, stepping between them. What's your deal, Kane? You and Voss think you own him. Julian appeared at my side, his presence quieter but no less commanding. He's not property, he said, voice low and dangerous. Back off. The cafeteria went silent, every eye on us. I wanted to sink through the floor, but my body had other ideas. That heat under my skin flared, and I felt my sense spike, sharp and overwhelming. Caleb's eyes widened, and even Ethan and Julian tensed. Enough, I said, standing. My voice was steadier than I felt. I'm not a prize, and I'm not fighting anyone. Leave me alone. For a moment, no one moved. Then Caleb laughed, raising his hands in mock surrender. Fine, Beta, or whatever you are. But this isn't over. As they walked away, the cafeteria buzzed back to life. Ethan grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the exit. Julian followed, his jaw tight. We ended up in the empty art room, the air thick with paint and tension. You okay? Ethan asked, his voice softer now. I nodded, though my hands were shaking. I just want this to stop. Julian sat on a stool, his eyes searching mine. It won't stop, Riley. Not until you're marked or bonded. That's how it works for Omegas. Bonded. The word felt like a trap. Bonding was permanent, a lifelong connection between an alpha and an omega. The thought made my chest tight. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. We're not saying you have to, but your scent's too strong now. It's drawing every alpha in a 10-mile radius. I sank into a chair, overwhelmed. So what? I'm supposed to just pick someone, and what? Live like this forever. Julian's expression softened. It's not about picking someone. It's about finding someone who sees you, not just your scent. His words hit deep, stirring that warmth in my chest again. I looked at him, then at Ethan, and realized I was already caught in something bigger than myself. They weren't just protecting me. They were drawn to me, just as I was to them. But how could I choose? And why did the idea of choosing feel so wrong? That night, at the cabin, we sat by the fire, the silence heavy. Ethan broke it first. Riley, we need to talk about what happens next. Your presentation's peaking. Soon, it won't just be Caleb or Derek. It'll be worse. Worse how? I asked, dreading the answer. Unmated omegas are rare, Julian said, his voice quiet. And in a town like this, some alphas don't play by the rules. I shivered, pulling my knees to my chest. So what do? Ethan leaned forward, his eyes intense. You stay with us. We'll keep you safe until you're ready to decide. Decide what? I snapped, frustration spilling over. Who gets to claim me? That's not a choice, it's a cage. Julian reached for my hand, his touch grounding. It's not about claiming you, Riley. It's about giving you a choice. We're here because we care about you, not your scent. Ethan nodded, his expression softer than I'd ever seen. He's right. We're not going anywhere, no matter what you choose. Their words should have comforted me, but they only made the ache in my chest grow. I didn't want to choose, not between them, not between a life I understood and one I didn't. But as the firelight danced across their faces, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't alone anymore. The weekend was a blur of training and tension. Ethan and Julian took turns teaching me how to manage my scent, my instincts, my fear. But no amount of breathing exercises could erase the reality. I was an Omega now, and the world saw me differently. Monday morning brought a new challenge. Julian was waiting there, his sketchbook tucked under his arm. You okay? He asked, his voice low. Barely, I muttered. This is getting worse. He nodded, his expression grim. It's peaking. We need to be careful. Careful wasn't enough. By third period, I was called to the principal's office. Mrs. Hargrove, a stern beta with a no-nonsense attitude, looked at me over her glasses. Riley, we've had complaints about disruptions. Your presentation is causing issues. I stared at her, incredulous. Issues? I didn't ask for this. I understand, she said, her tone softening. But we have to maintain order. I'm suggesting you take a few days off until things settle. Settle? I laughed bitterly. You mean until I'm bonded or locked away? She sighed, rubbing her temples. I'm trying to help, Riley. This isn't easy for anyone. I left her office fuming, my hands shaking. Ethan and Julian were waiting outside, their expressions dark. What happened? Ethan demanded. They want me to stay home, I said, my voice breaking. Like I'm the problem. Julian's jaw tightened. You're not the problem. They just don't know how to handle this. Ethan grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the exit. Come on. We're getting out of here. We ended up at the cabin again, but this time, the mood was different. The air felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. Ethan paced by the fireplace, his frustration palpable. Julian sat beside me on the couch, his sketchbook open to a new drawing. A storm over a lake, wild and chaotic. We can't keep doing this, Ethan said, stopping to face me. Hiding you away isn't a plan. We need to figure out what you want. What I want. I snapped, standing. I want to be normal again. I want to walk into school without feeling like prey. Julian set his sketchbook down, his eyes steady. You're not prey, Riley. You're stronger than you think. I wanted to believe him, but the fear was too real. What if I can't handle this? What if I'm not enough? Ethan stepped closer, his voice low and fierce. You are enough. You're more than enough. His words hung in the air, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just the three of us. I felt it again. That pull, that heat, drawing me to both of them. Ethan's strength, Julian's quiet intensity. They were opposites, yet they fit together, and somehow, I fit with them. That night, as we sat on the porch, the stars bright above the lake, Julian spoke. Riley, you don't have to choose. Not now, maybe not ever. But you need to know we're here, no matter what. Ethan nodded, his hand brushing mine. We're not going anywhere. The warmth of their presence steadied me, but deep down, I knew the storm was coming. My scent was a beacon, and the alphas circling me weren't going to back off. I had to decide, not just who I trusted, but who I was willing to become. The next day, I didn't go to school. Ethan and Julian insisted I stay at the cabin, and for once, I didn't argue. The idea of facing another day of stares and whispers was too much. But staying away didn't solve the problem, it only delayed it. We spent the morning by the lake, Ethan teaching me self-defense moves while Julian watched, sketching in the grass. You're small, but you're quick, Ethan said, dodging my clumsy punch. Use that. I laughed, breathless. Easy for you to say, Mr. Quarterback. He grinned, catching my wrist. You'll get there. Julian looked up from his sketchbook, his eyes warm. He's right. You're tougher than you look. Their confidence in me was infectious, but it couldn't erase the dread building in my chest. That afternoon, as we sat on the porch, a truck pulled up. Caleb. He stepped out, flanked by Derek and another alpha I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped. Ethan was on his feet in an instant, his body tense. Stay back, Riley. Julian moved to my side, his hand on my arm. We've got this. Caleb stopped a few feet away, his grin cold. Relax, Kane. Just here to talk. Talk, Ethan growled. You've got no business here. Caleb's eyes flicked to me, and I felt my sense spike, unbidden. Oh, I think I do. Riley's causing quite a stir. Thought I'd offer my protection. Julian's grip tightened. He doesn't need you. Caleb laughed, stepping closer. You two think you can keep him all to yourselves? The words hit like a slap. Fair game. I wasn't a person to them, just a prize, a trophy. Anger flared, hot and sharp. I'm not anyone's game, I said, stepping forward despite Julian's hold. Leave. Caleb's grin faltered, but only for a moment. Bold words, Beta, but you can't hide forever. Ethan moved, placing himself between me and Caleb. Get out. Now. For a tense moment, no one moved. Then Caleb raised his hands, backing off. Fine, but this isn't over. As their truck disappeared down the dirt road, I sank onto the porch, my legs shaking. Julian sat beside me, his hand still on my arm. You okay? No, I admitted, my voice raw. I'm scared. Ethan knelt in front of me, his eyes fierce. You don't have to be. We're not letting them near you. But their words, their presence, couldn't erase the truth. Caleb wasn't going to stop. And he wasn't alone. The world I'd known was gone, replaced by one where I was hunted, desired, feared. I looked at Ethan and Julian, their faces etched with determination, and felt a surge of gratitude, and something more. Something that scared me as much as Caleb did. That night, as we sat by the fire, I made a decision. I can't keep running, I said, my voice steady. I need to face this. Whatever I am now, I need to own it. Julian nodded, his expression proud. We'll help you. Every step. Ethan reached for my hand, his touch warm and solid. You're not alone, Riley. You never will be. As the fire crackled, I felt a spark of hope. I was an Omega, yes, but I was still Riley. And with Ethan and Julian by my side, I could face whatever came next. The next week was a test of everything I'd learned. I went back to school, determined to face the stares and whispers head-on. Ethan and Julian stayed close, their presence a shield against the chaos. But the tension was building, a storm ready to break. Caleb made his move on Friday. It was after school, in the parking lot. I was heading to Ethan's truck when he and his crew cut me off. Time's up, Riley, Caleb said, his voice low and dangerous. You can't hide behind Kane and Voss forever. Ethan stepped in front of me, his fists clenched. Try me, Caleb. Julian was at my side, his calm exterior hiding the steel beneath. Walk away. Last chance. But Caleb didn't back down. Neither did his friends. The air was thick with pheromones, alpha against alpha, and I felt my own scent flare, uncontrollable. It was like throwing fuel on a fire. Caleb's eyes darkened, and he lunged. What happened next was a blur. Ethan tackled Caleb, their bodies hitting the asphalt. Julian pulled me back, shielding me as Derek and the other alpha closed in. But I wasn't helpless. I remembered Ethan's training, ducking under Derek's grab and landing a kick to his knee. He stumbled, cursing. Riley, Julian shouted, shoving the other alpha back. Get to the truck. I ran, my heart pounding, but I didn't get far. Caleb broke free from Ethan, grabbing my arm. His grip was bruising, his scent overwhelming. You're mine, he growled. No, I said, yanking free. I'm not. Ethan was on him in an instant, pulling him off me. Julian joined the fray, and for a moment, I thought it would end in blood. But then a teacher's voice cut through the chaos, and the fight broke apart. Caleb and his crew backed off, but not before Caleb shot me a look that promised this wasn't over. We piled into Ethan's truck, breathless and shaken. You okay? Ethan asked, his knuckles bloody. I nodded, though my arm throbbed where Caleb had grabbed me. Yeah, thanks to you guys. Julian reached over, his hand gentle on mine. You held your own, Riley. You're stronger than you think. We drove to the cabin, the silence heavy but comforting. That night, as we sat by the lake, I finally spoke the truth I'd been avoiding. I don't want to choose, I said, looking between them. I don't want to lose either of you. Ethan's eyes softened. You don't have to choose. We're in this together. Julian nodded, his fingers brushing mine. We're a pack, Riley. All three of us. The word pack felt right, like a puzzle piece clicking into place. In a world that wanted to tear me apart, they were my anchor. I wasn't just a beta anymore, and I wasn't just an omega. I was Riley, stronger, braver, and part of something bigger. As the stars reflected on the lake, I leaned against Ethan, Julian's hand in mine. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was home.